Welcome to Herf Zone Live, the show where we have the most eclectic lineup of guests, of which some cigars and some who don't. Either way, we bring you the best content weekly. Herf Zone Live is sponsored by StogieLives.com, a social media site just for cigar smokers. Sign up for free and connect with cigar lovers from all over the world. Set up with similar features to Facebook and other social media sites. You can grow your network, start groups, post events, and see why everyone is talking about StogieLives.com. Make connect with Team Shirtless Mike and Herf Zone Live and tell because of the show. Team Shirtless Mike and Herf Zone Live are also getting behind a special project with Ace Prime Cigars and Stogie Press. They are working to raise money for a daycare center in Jalapa, Nicaragua, help out workers in the cigar industry, among helping in other ways. As you know, Nicaragua has a lot of poverty, and in Jalapa, there is massive amounts of need. This is where a lot of cigars are produced, so I'm getting behind this along with others in the cigar industry to make a difference. The link to the Stogie Press article is in the show description. You can learn more about the project and make a donation by clicking the link in the description. Together, we can achieve more. Tell a friend to tell a. All right, what's going on, everybody? Hopefully, I'm not skipping too bad today, but I'm gonna get this cigar lit, and I'm smoking. Me and Duncan today will be smoking a Pastaña leaf. So I'm getting this cigar lit, and then we'll bring our guest Duncan on. So hold on. Wait for some more people to roll in here. Oh, yeah. And also, I now have my own official website, teamshirtlessmike.com. Now you can watch the show live on the website as well through the YouTube link on the homepage. But without further ado, though, I have a special guest in the Cigar Hustlers podcast green room. Make sure you check out a Cigar Hustlers podcast on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. They are our new sponsors for the green room, and I'll have to get another computer soon. But yeah, make sure you check out my sponsors, the Cigar Hustlers podcast. And now I have Duncan Jay coming up, and we're gonna get the show started, and maybe some of that skipping will stop. Hey, what's going on?
What's up, everybody?
So yeah, you've already got your Pastaña broadleaf.
Well, I lit mine the same time as you lit yours, man. Because I'm working from my cell phone, so I didn't want to. I needed two hands to light the cigar. You know what I mean? To turn it and light it, and to do it the right way, you need two hands.
Absolutely.
How you doing today?
So how you enjoying that cigar so far?
So far, the first couple of puffs ain't so bad. Where's she here?
Nice. Well, it's made at Nicasueño, so you already know it's gonna have some good man back
now,
in there.
What is Nicasueño? What does that mean?
You know what? I don't know. It's just the name of their factory. Just the name of their factory.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you said you made in Nicasueño, so I know. Oh, in Nicaragua. Okay. See, okay,
yeah, Nicaragua. Gotcha. It's made in Nicaragua. Yeah. I think I was breaking up at the first part of the show.
Don't say that too fast, Nicaragua. If you say Nicaragua too fast, people might think you're saying something else. Be careful with that word.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, I said it. You got to take a drink. We got to take a drink. I said definitely.
Everybody drink. I got to get my drink. Hold on.
All right.
I just realized when I lit the cigar, I don't think I told I'm at my apartment right now, and I don't think I told my girlfriend I had to smoke the cigar while on the show, and she's not a big fan of cigars, so.
Okay, well, just go outside.
That's what I was saying. I had to go into my kitchen because I'm standing over by the sliding glass door so that I can shoot this air out because she's gonna come home and kill me.
Hey, it's all good, bro. So yeah, I'm gonna get this interview started, man. So this is everybody out there. This is Duncan Jay. He is a comedian. We're gonna interview this dude here. So we're going to start off with this here. So where are you originally from? And tell me about the early years and how you grew up.
Oh, shit. You this is a real interview. I don't think I've done one of these before.
Yeah.
You got questions and shit. I thought we were just bullshitting.
Nah.
Y'all had it typed up too. Look at Shirtless Mike being professional and shit. I love it. Exactly. All right, to answer your question, I'm originally born and raised in Birmingham, Alabama. I was born at St. Vincent's Hospital. I lived in Inslee, which if you Google Inslee, you'll find out that it's not the greatest of neighborhoods. It ain't the pretty part of the city. I grew up in a predominantly black neighborhood. I was one of 5 white families in the whole neighborhood. In fact, once my grandfather died and all my relatives moved to Florida to be closer to my mom's, that was the end of the white people in the neighborhood that we grew up in. Sure. I didn't even know that I was in a bad neighborhood until I went to the Good Mall. You know what I'm saying? And for those of you out there that don't know what the Good Mall is, okay, if you in Brevard County, think about Titusville. Okay, think about the Titusville Mall. That's the bad mall. Okay, the bad mall is where you have to look for a store, not a parking place. The good mall, you have to look for a parking place, not a store. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, so I grew up there in Birmingham. My mom got remarried when I was young. When I was about 8 years old, and we moved to Merritt Island, Florida, and that's where I grew up. I went to high school there, and then I moved to New York City back in '98. Am I getting ahead of you?
No, you're good. I was just gonna ask, like, if you went to college or anything next. So.
I did. I actually moved from here. I was in the Army, straight out of school, I took some courses over at BCC, Brevard Community College at the time. Now it's called what is it called? The what's it called? The
Eastern Florida
State College. That's what it's called. I forget, but we called it BCC or Beer Can College, or we called the UCLA, University of Clear Lake Avenue, but because that's where it's located on Clear Lake Avenue.
Yeah.
But I went to school there for a little while. I took some courses over in Valencia. I took some film courses over there, and then I decided to try my luck at acting. So I applied to a few schools in New York City, and I applied at Juilliard. I got applied at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. I applied at NYU Tisch. I got into all 3 of them, but I decided to go to the Academy, American Academy of Dramatic Arts, for acting, because my mom was paying for it. She said, if you get into school, I'm going to pay for any school you get into. And I looked at what school I wanted to go to and how much my mom was going to have to pay. I was like, well, the Academy you have to understand, Robert Redford went to school at the Academy. Robert De Niro, not Robert De Niro, Danny DeVito, 2 totally different people. Danny DeVito went to school there. There's a bunch of people that come out of the Academy. Paul Rudd, you know Paul Rudd is, right? He was in I Love You, Man. He's the Ant-Man. He plays Ant-Man.
Okay,
that's Paul Rudd. He went to the same school that I did.
All right, cool.
So that put me in New York City, and I was there for a few years. When I got out, I started right when I got out of school, though. I was like 99. Yeah. I moved up in 98, 2000. In 2000, what happened was I got work right out of school. I was doing commercials. I was doing plays, like national, like regionally touring plays and stuff like that. And then come 2001, we had a SAG strike, which is a Screen Actors Guild. So SAG strike came, and a lot of the auditions kind of dried up because nobody wanted to cross the SAG line, the picket line. They want to be a scab. In fact, you remember that commercial, the Dell commercial?
Yeah.
Where they had the blonde guy, like, dude, you're getting a Dell. You know that guy? I was almost that dude.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it came down between me and him and one other kid. It was me, that dude, and an 11-year-old kid. They didn't know which way they wanted to go, but they went with the guy who that they did. And I don't know if you know about that guy, but he ended up getting blackballed from SAG because he crossed the picket line to do those commercials, and basically every dime he made, he paid back to SAG so that he could work again.
No, I didn't know this. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, well, he got in trouble that way, and then he was in the news for buying weed, and so Dell dropped him altogether. And a couple years after that, I actually met the dude again. I met him in the auditions, but I saw him again because he was actually doing a play that my friend had wrote, and he was actually in my friend's play. And I met him afterwards, and we're out, at the after show. We're just bullshitting. And I'm like, so, dude, you look. I've heard what the story was in the news and shit. What's your story? I go, because from what I understand, you went to Washington Square Park to get weed? I'm like, you live in New York City. They deliver. Why would you chance that, right? And he's like, no, here's the truth. I did have a delivery service, and the weed guy came. And the thing is, my next door neighbor who uses the same weed guy saw that he came, and my neighbor doesn't like me. So we got a little loud. He called the cops, and the cops came and knocked on my door, and they smelled weed, and I got arrested. He's like, I'm just glad that the guy made the call to the cops before the coke guy came.
Wow. Yeah, so you spent time, you went to college, New York City, you did acting and everything. Now, around this time, was it around the time where you kind of got into comedy as well, or?
Yes and no. What happened was I moved to New York to be an actor. I was going to be I was going to be like Johnny Depp, Leonardo DiCaprio. I was going to be a serious actor, and I was going to pick and choose my roles and shit like that. At least that's what I thought, right? But you know what they say, God laughs when you make plans. You know what I mean? So right after the SAG strike, 9/11 happened. Right. So the SAG strike was during the summertime, and in September, 9/11 happened. So everything shut down in the city. Yeah. All like projects, anything, like literally right after 9/11, if you weren't a name, actor, like if you didn't have like some kind of star credibility, they put Jason Biggs from American Pie, the guy that screwed the pie. Remember him? Yeah. They put that dude in a play, in the stage version of The Graduate with Kathleen Turner, just to get asses in the seats. You know what I'm saying? Like there was big names like not Ewan McGregor, but God, what's his damn name? He was in Training Day with Denzel, the white dude. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, but I can't.
Okay, I can't think of his name right now. He was married to Uma Thurman. Anyways, he was in an off Broadway show because he was the only name that they could get. You know what I mean? So if you weren't a name right after 9/11, you weren't working. So basically, I wasn't doing auditions. I wasn't doing any work. So I was working for this entertainment company that was doing bar mitzvahs and weddings and stuff like that on the weekends when I didn't have anything else to do. And I was making good money there. But then I was like, shit, I got to make some real money, because the acting thing's not working. I didn't want to go back to waiting tables again. So I talked to the owner of the entertainment company. I moved into the office, making phone calls and doing sales calls and shit like that. So I was making pretty good money right then and there. That was like 2001 and most of 2002. And then like probably summertime of 2002, I got this creative itch because I was entertaining at bar mitzvahs and weddings, but it was all cookie cutter. It was all designed, and people didn't want anything that was out of them. They didn't want anything extra. So my creativity was like, I even tried to be creative with some of the things, and I got letters back from families that they didn't want that, So I was like, okay, no problem. I can tone it down. So I got this. I answered this ad in Backstage magazine, which is for actors, not Backpage. That didn't exist. Backstage, that's the actors magazine. So I went to Backstage, and they had an audition for an improv group, kind of like, because Whose Line Is It Anyway was pretty big at that point, in time. And so they were doing improv shows. So I was like, okay, I'll go there. I went to New York Comedy Club down on 23rd between 2nd and 3rd Avenue and auditioned. and I got in, and they loved me. And I had been emceeing bar mitzvahs and weddings, so I know how to use a microphone. I've been acting for years, so I was a natural host, and the lady that ran the group loved my hosting skills. So she put me as host anytime I showed up, which doesn't sound very important, but here you have to understand this group was like a pay to play kind of group. For instance, what the lady would do is you would come in, you would give her $20, and then she'd give you 4 tickets. And you could sell those tickets for $5 and make your money back, or you could sell those tickets for $10 a piece and double your money if you was a hustler. You know? Yeah. So as a host, I didn't have to sell tickets. So every time I showed up, I was like, I'll host, I'll host. So I got to doing that for a while. And then me and a bunch of the cats that were doing that, we broke off and formed our own little group, and we called ourselves Comedy. It's a bunch of M's, a ... and the word comedy. And then our logo was one of the guys drew one of the group members drew another one of the group members to look like Chef Boyardee. Mm-hmm. And then put it like on a can, so it looked like Campbell's soup, and it said comedy. It was great. It was great. And we did sketch comedy, we did improv comedy, we had stand-up comedy, we had music comedy. It was a variety show that we did for almost a year. Every Monday night, it was a brand new show for a year. And then they sold the joint. The place was called Tobacco Road, and it was right over by Port Authority. And they sold it, and it became a gay bar. And they were like, "No, get those straight people out of here."
So that's kind of how you got into comedy through the improv and everything. But what got you interested in the stand-up aspect of it? Like, how did you eventually get into stand-up as opposed to hosting the improv group?
Well, that's a good question. First of all, I've always been a fan of stand-up comedy. Like, I remember the first thing I ever watched. You remember when you was a kid and you weren't allowed to watch shit, because it was whatever rating. The parents were like, "You're not gonna watch that." When parents gave a shit about what their kids watched.
Yeah.
Well, my parents did. My parents had HBO, or at least my grandfather did. And so they were like, "You can't watch it." And so I remember as a kid sneaking out and watching HBO and watching Robin Williams just go ape on like when he was climbing the walls, he's drenching with sweat. And then my uncle always used to watch Eddie Murphy Raw and Eddie Murphy Delirious. He watched those like back to back on replay, and so that's where I got my first interest in comedy. Was as a young kid. Like I remember in junior high school, I used to go. You remember? I don't know if you remember when you were a kid and you saw something amazing, and all your friends thought it was amazing, and you would go and act it out the next day at school.
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about? I had Delirious Raw. I had Raw memorized. Delirious. Which one was the first one? Delirious, right? I've got some ice cream, and you don't like.
I think that was the first one.
Yeah, that was the first one. That was Delirious. That was that I had that one memorized. In fact, I had that album on it was a white cassette tape that I played in my Walkman. Okay, so my parents couldn't hear what I was listening to, and it was the same album, but it was called Comedian. Eddie Murphy Comedian. Look that up. You can Google that. But that Eddie Murphy Comedian, that cassette became Eddie Murphy Raw. And they filmed it right there or Delirious rather, and they filmed it right at Madison Square Garden.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's how I kind of like got into interested in comedy. Like I said before, when I was working at that club, because all the comedy shows, all the improv shows were actually at the New York Comedy Club. So every night we had the early show. And the bookers or the managers, the door people who were working the door would always ask us if we wanted to stick around and watch the show for free because they wanted asses in the seat. You know what I mean? They wanted to look like a big audience. And I always passed. I was like, nah. Because, I mean, at that point, I was still thinking, I can still be an actor and do the improv thing because, Wayne Brady, Jim Carrey, fucking, I mean, you know, the list goes on and on about improv into parlaying that into an acting career. So I was like, yeah. But I didn't have any real interest in doing stand-up because I didn't know if I could do it. I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't know. I was like, how do you just get up there and tell people a story and they like listen? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I was like, I don't even know how to take, because I was always like, with the improv background and all that shit, I was always under the impression that I'm funny in the moment and I don't know how to recreate that moment in front of strangers. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so with that, I went in, and one night, I guess, you know, they caught me at the right time. And I went in, and they were like, hey, you want to watch the show? I was like, yeah, sure, I'll watch the show. Fuck it. I think I been in a fight with my girlfriend that night, or I just didn't have any money, and they offered to buy me a drink or something. Anyways, long story short, I sat there and watched the show, and out of the entire show, there was like only one or two guys that I was like really impressed by. Everybody else that I saw, I was like, well, shit, I'm funnier than this dude off the top of my head. If I could write this shit down, I could do that. I could bomb like that guy did, you know, and maybe even better. Who knows? So I started writing some material and going around to open mics at that point. And then, you know, the different open mics around New York City. And my first open mic, bro, oh my God, that was awful. It was awful. I got up there. I remember it like it was yesterday. It was this place called the show was called The Trainwreck. It was a little bar down on the Lower East Side, and it was you walk in, it's a shitty little dive bar, but around the back they had this black box theater where they did the comedy show. And you get up there on the stage, and there's 60 other stand-ups, 60 other open micers sitting in the audience. You thought it was a real audience. It wasn't. It was all comics, just looking at you like, who do you think you are? You think you're funny? Yeah, I'm not going to laugh at shit. You know what I mean? And the other half was like, ooh, that's funny. Let me write that down and steal that shit from them. You know what I mean? So if you got a laugh in that room, if you got a chuckle in that room, if you got a little hee-hee in that room, that meant that it was gold. You know what I mean? That meant that joke would work, because comics don't laugh at shit. And if a comic laughs at your shit, it's probably pretty funny. You know, for me, Mike, the only thing I laugh at when a comic's on stage is if they expect to laugh and don't get it. That shit makes me laugh hard.
Yeah. Especially when I used to try out stand-up, and the only real laughs that I got was when I dressed up like you for the Halloween thing, and
yeah.
That's the only time I really got some laughs.
I'm gonna be honest with you. That right there was probably the best. I mean, not for nothing, that's the best compliment I've ever gotten, as far as, like, you know, somebody taking my material, getting the laughs that they didn't expect, because that felt good to me.
Yeah,
you know. Because all the other comics on that one show, they were picking people, you know, famous comedians. And you're like, I'm doing Duncan Jay. I was like, oh, shit. Of course, that was when I was heavier and everybody thought you were my son. So
yeah. And then plus we used to both rock fedoras all the time.
Yeah, right? Yes.
My God.
Yes. And rock fedoras and smoke cigars. Are you sure he's not your kid? No, I don't. No.
We met at Crispy's.
Exactly. So I basically I don't know where I was going with that, but no, that was a compliment,
about the comedy room.
When you did that at the open mics, yeah. Oh, the comedy room in New York, yeah. That one was that was run by my friend Joey Gay. Joey Gay ran that, and he's been on Last Comic Standing. He tours the country. He's a funny dude, man.
Cool. So like New York City, like the comedy scene in New York City, I imagine, like from what you've kind of talked about in the past, you know, from telling stories, is pretty brutal, right? Like what's like a night like? What's like a night like for a New York City comic that's out there trying to make it?
You have to understand that my references and the things that I'm going to talk to you about, the things I could tell you about New York City are shit that happened back in the early 2000s. So we're talking almost 20 years ago. So they might be they're a little bit different now, and I think it's harder now to break into comedy than it's ever been. Back then, you had people that would come out and they'd try it and they'd stick around for like a month, maybe 2, and then they're like, nah, this ain't for me. But now you got every day there's 100 more people trying comedy. You know what I mean? In New York, and now you only get. Used to be you go in and what you did was you did the open mics. You'd go to the comedy clubs and put in what's called FaceTime, which means you take $20, $30, go hang out at the bar at the comedy club and just sit there. And eventually you network. You meet comics. You meet you'll meet a comic that's been in the game for a couple of years. You'll meet a comic that's been in the game for 10, 15 years. And then if you hit it off with one of them, like for instance, one of the biggest jump off points of my career in New York was the night I was hanging out at the Laugh Factory, back when the Laugh Factory was in Times Square. It took over the place where Show World was, which is an old porn place. They took that over and turned it into to the Improv, or not to the Improv, to the Laugh Factory, and honestly, probably what was like got me into doing other clubs was making friends with other comics. It was all about networking and nepotism and shit like that. So I remember this one night at the Laugh Factory. You know, Judah Friedlander is Judah Friedlander from 30 Rock. He always rocked the trucker cap.
Yeah,
on 30 Rock. Okay, so he's known as the world champion. That's his gimmick. Anyways, he was running a few minutes late coming from a gig that he was doing down in the Village, and I was there in Times Square, and so they threw me on stage for 5 minutes just because I was the only comic that was there that wasn't on the lineup and ready to go.
Yeah. So it's like that a lot of the times. Then, like, it
was crazy, man. It was. I mean, honestly,
you got to be ready at all times.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was some of the best times I ever had. Some of the craziest times. Let me tell you. Like I saw Patrice O'Neal one night just get an audience to hated him, and then he turned it around and they all fucking loved him. And like he literally got a comic. He got a comic fired because he started a fight out in the bar, an argument out in the bar about why they let the comic before Patrice go on because he was awful. And that no, here's the story. So there was this kid right from Long Island, and it was back when there was MySpace, and he had like 1,000 followers or 1,000 friends on MySpace, and he did a show in the city, and he had like, all right, the room sat 120 people. He brought about 80 of them. Okay. Yeah. So the owner of the booker of the club, and we can't remember who that was at the time, and then the host of the club, or the host of that show, let him run. He did the kid did like 45 minutes and wasn't ready for 45 minutes. He spoke for 45 minutes, but he was not funny the whole time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Patrice was there, and the kid was going over time. And Patrice is like, when you're working comic in New York, you got to do like 4 or 5 shows a night just to make ends meet. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Patrice was running late for another show, I think. And he was getting on to Greg about why he let this kid up there. This kid is awful. And they kept explaining, well, he brought all these people. He's like, well, they're awful too. I don't care. If you know Patrice, it's just Patrice being himself. So Patrice gets up on stage after the kid, and he's like, I just need to know who that kid's father is. Is that kid's parents here tonight? And the dad was like right up in the front row. He's like, I'm right here. He's like, well, let me tell you, sir, you're an awful, awful father. And let me tell you why. He's like, most comics have shitty childhoods and shitty parents, and that's why they get on the stage. And you, sir, encourage him to go down a road that is going to be detrimental to his mental health. That's why you stuck as a father. And just going off on him, like, to the point where, like, honestly, there was 120 people in there. About 40 of them got up and left, which means half of them were still his friends, and they stuck around to hear what Patrice had to say because Patrice was that fucking funny. So then he gets off stage and he starts an argument with the fucking host, right? And the host said something to him. Now you got to understand, it's Patrice O'Neal. I'm outside smoking a cigarette because they just banned cigarettes in New York at this time, right?
Yeah.
So I'm outside smoking a cigarette, and Patrice O'Neal walks out with It's Patrice O'Neal, a comic named Todd Lynn, who goes way back, and a guy named Rich Voss. I know you know where Rich Voss is if you ever watched Tough Crowd with Colin Quinn on Comedy Central. Again, that's an old ass show, but Rich Voss was there, and and they're just going back and forth and going back and forth, and the host keeps going back and forth from one end, from the end of the block, because the corner of the block where the subway is, and then back to the club, and then back. And they were just having this verbal argument back and forth, and the host would say some shit and walk away. Patrice would say some shit, the kid would walk back. You know that yeah. And basically, the last time the host went to walk away, Patrice looked back at Rich Voss and looked back at Todd Lynn, and I happened to be back there too. And he goes, "Watch this. I'm gonna make him call me a nigger." Like he literally, that's what Patrice said, and we're like, "What?" And he said, "Hey, come on back. I'll talk to the booker and get your job back." And, and that's when the host was like, "And that's why you're at." And there happened to be two black guys walking across the street, so he had to run to the subway. And that was just one night of hanging out at, trying to get on stage. But yeah.
Nice. So for those who may not know, who are some of the big name comics that you've worked with? I know you're talking about Patrice O'Neal, but
Patrice, I've met Patrice. I mean, I'm friends. So many of my friends are hitting it right now. Right now, Nate Bargatze, he's got a Netflix special that just came out. Bill Burr, I know Bill for years. Eric Andre, I'm sure you know who Eric Andre is. He's got a movie that's on Netflix right now. I know a lot of these cats, man. A lot of these cats, we started out in the same, Nick Kroll used to come to the fucking the same, some of the same open mics as I did. Chelsea Peretti. I mean, I've known these people for years.
Awesome. And so when did you come back to Brevard, and when was it that the Brevard comedy scene started to form? Was it officially like when I first met you when things were kind of jumping off, or was there a little bit before then?
Well, that's a good question, because it's kind of, when I first moved back, I moved back in February 2008, and I was at, because basically it just got too expensive to live in New York. It was just way too expensive. And so my mom was like, "Hey, you can come stay here as long as you want, yada, yada, yada." So I was like, all right. So I sucked my pride. I swallowed my pride, tucked my tail between my legs. I came home. And then I was depressed. I'm going to be honest with you. I was depressed as shit for like 6 months. And I didn't do any comedy. I didn't do anything. And then I basically just was like, I need to snap out of this. I started looking up open mics. I called a couple of friends of mine that were that I had known, from New York, that were living down this way now. They turned me on to a couple of people, and I went to do an open mic over in Orlando. And that's when I realized I was driving to Orlando from, Merritt Island, Cocoa Beach area.
Yeah.
Driving 2 hours round trip, paying for gas and tolls. And I'm meeting people over there who from over here. And I'm like, well, why are we driving all the way over here? Why don't we just start our own show over there? And most of those cats were brand new, so they didn't have the New York hustle that I had. So they all looked at me like, "You could do that?" I was like, "I got this. You just, you follow me. I got this." And so I started trying to, set up things here and there. And I was setting up some shows, and it was still kind of open mics, but they didn't really work very well. They didn't last very long, because most of the people in this area didn't know anything about comedy. They didn't know anything about comedy.
Yeah.
And so they didn't know how open mics were supposed to work. They only knew about how music was supposed to work. So we didn't get a lot of big crowds at first, so it didn't last. And then I want to say, let's see, what was it? 2000 shit. 2000, was it 2014, 2015, something? I think it was 2014 maybe. That we had an open mic that closed, and we said, Shira Ann, female comedian, very funny woman.
Oh yeah,
beautiful too, and she got 2 beautiful kids. And she got another baby on the way. Anyway, she was dating a guy that lived over here, and Bradley Burton at the time, and he worked at open mics. Or actually, it was an open mics at the time. It's called Florida Discount Music.
Yeah,
and the owner of Florida Discount Music was turning open mics, or turning his store into a performance space, and they had an open mic every night of the week for anything you could imagine, from jazz night to comedy night to whatever. And so one night they didn't have any nights set up. This is right when open mics was first starting out, and so there was about 9 of us that decided to go down on one Wednesday night, and we're just going to go down and do it and just infiltrate this open mic and take it over. And that's what we did. We went down there, and there was a couple of groups there. There was a band. Steve Keller's was at that first night, and and we were sitting there talking, and we did our show. I hosted, and they just kept bringing comics up, and they loved it, and they loved every minute of it. And they said, come back again in a couple of weeks and do it again when the owner's here, and he'll love it. And we did. We came back, and the first time Mike De La Chapa saw us, he pulled me aside and was like, hey, how would you like to do this every Wednesday? I was like, I don't know. Let me talk to the guys, and let me talk to the comics and see what's up. He's like, well, I'll pay you to host. I was like, all right, we'll be here next week. So no, seriously though, we started our first official show because that first show we did, it was like it was in November, and the second show we did was the beginning of December, and then they had the holidays. You had Christmas and New Year's and all that shit. So our very first show was I want to say January 2015. No, it had been 13 into 14, because we lasted 7 years before COVID took it out. Yeah, that show was running for 7 years.
So COVID is ultimately what took it out then?
Yes and no. COVID, along with a bunch of egos. Yeah. And when I say egos, I mean musicians. I mean, is it giving anybody vertigo? I'm trying to light my cigar. Give me a second.
No, you're okay, bro.
Oh, my cigar went out. And it's a cigar show, so it shouldn't go out, right?
Definitely. Oh, there it goes again.
What's that?
Definitely.
Oh, drink it up. I'm out of drink, so I can't drink. But yeah, so basically that went into an every Wednesday night thing, and like I said, we ran that shit for 6 years. I was in charge of it, and they restructured the management aspect of it, and it lasted for another year. And what happened was just Mike got tired of dealing with creative egos and people who they would just bitch about everything, So during COVID, since they weren't using the stage, they renovated their whole space, and now they're just a coffee shop with a gift store in it.
Yeah, because that was definitely, there it goes again. That was the longest running comedy show. But even while there, you had different little open mics at different places that popped up that came and gone or whatever.
Yeah.
So but with that being said, like currently today, because it's been a while, because I've just been kind of working on building, being a cigar influencer and all. I haven't really been out like that. So what's the state of the brevard comedy scene now? I know there's people that don't like each other. I know there's people that's just...
I'm gonna be real with you, bro. It has turned into exactly what I did not want it to turn into. There's too many comics around with egos. There's too many of these cats that click up. They get all cliquey, and then there's they don't support each other. They don't work together. They don't care. There's not enough concern. And most of the comics that are in the quote unquote brevard comedy scene, I mean, you remember we used to have a plethora of people that would come out, try it. We had a crew.
Yeah. I was one of them. I was trying it for like a year.
Right. And the thing is, though, is that like too many people were looking at things the wrong way. Like for instance, I had a couple of comics come at me because I knew I had been around for a while, and everybody gave me credit for starting the comedy scene here, which I only took partial credit, because the reality is that I was only like termed as the godfather of brevard comedy, or whatever you want to call it. It's because I had the experience. I had what these other kids lacked. That I had been in a professional comedy community for years before I had to move back, and I was creating something that was more akin to what I was used to in New York than to just it be a hobby. You know what I mean? Yeah. And too many of the cats were like, too many of the younger kids were like, looked at me like a father figure. And you know how people, kids they hate their father. So they started hating on me, and I had one kid that was spreading rumors that how I didn't pay people and this, that, and the other thing. And the thing was that I had the open mics thing lined up to where I was literally like, I paid the host and I paid the person who closed out the show, and everybody in between was getting stage time and experience in front of a live, real comedy audience. Like if you had a bad set at open mics, you should probably rethink your career. You know what I mean? Because it was such a room. It was like going to the Improv. Okay. Yeah. Every comic, and I would. And the thing is back then I was taking these comics to get stage time on the Improv. I was using my connections to help out our entire community, but then I was turned around and I was made to look to be the bad guy. You see? Yeah. So, I bowed out gracefully. I was like, listen, if I'm not going to come to a place that I'm not wanted, I'm not going to come to a place where I feel uncomfortable, and with the cats that were running it, they got all clicked up. And just like I said before, they all were like, running their mouths about this person, that person. I even had one of the comics message me and brag about how he runs what I used to run. And he told me, he told me, I hope you overdose on those pills that you're crushing up and snorting. And I told him, I was like, first of all, if you're going to talk to an addict about the addict, get the drug right. It was cocaine. I never did pills like your mom and your brother. But anyways, no, the bottom line is that, it kind of fell apart. I mean, it became like the younger comics here, instead of like accepting themselves and trying to better themselves, they looked at other open mic comics in different areas, like over in Orlando. Like they treated some of the open micers from the Orlando comics which professionals like myself, Ken Miller and Mike Hurley and the cats that are staples on the Orlando scene, they looked at the comics that these comics were looking at like garbage, but the Brevard comics looked at those same comics like gods, And so that's another one of the things that I think kind of ran mics into the ground, because they didn't have the depth of talent, the depth of the talent pool that I had to draw from. They could only draw from people that, they knew. And the only people that they knew were the ones, doing open mics just like them. So it became a power struggle, and I bowed out gracefully because, I'm too old for that shit.
Exactly. You can't be, it's just a bunch of bullshit, and, you just got to focus on you, man. So,
well, I look at it like this, anytime you're trying to help somebody, if you ain't hungry, I can't feed you.
Exactly.
If you ain't hungry, I can't feed you. But since you've done 3 shows, now you know everything. So, you don't need me no more.
Yeah. and see, I was around in the beginning. I seen a lot of this shit. Like you invested time into people, and to come back and bite you in the ass like that, like you don't deserve
the same dude that told me that he hopes I OD on the pills, okay, I used to give that motherfucker a ride to open mics, the different open mics in Brevard County, because he didn't have a car. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't an asshole, and I mean, look, the people tried to tell me that I played favorites, and I'm like, look, I put up a comic that like literally slept with my girlfriend behind my back, and I still put him up afterwards because he was funny. Had nothing to do with politics. I had nothing to do. I have. If you're funny, I'm gonna work you. If you're hungry, I'm gonna feed you. You know, it's that simple. But
absolutely,
you know, it got out of control with the clicks and the rumors and the bullshit and the yada yada yada. So you know, what are you gonna do?
It is what it is. So COVID hit and it messed up a lot of things comedy wise. What has been your COVID experience? And after you say that, then also tell us about, you know, what you were telling me about the other day, how you did 2 hours on stage. Which is unheard of.
Well, as far as COVID goes, man, it really fucked me up because I had stopped working a day job. I was working a day job back in 2018, and I was getting so many gigs and so many offers, and I had like a lot of bar shows, as far like game shows. Like I do a trivia night, I do a bingo night, did, you know, all kinds of cool stuff. And I was doing my stand up. So I was making my living as an entertainer in Brevard County.
Yep.
It was great. And then March 17th, 2020, the government shut down all the bars, all the restaurants on St. Patrick's Day, by the way, which is ironic. Isn't it ironic how they closed all the bars on St. Patrick's Day, the biggest booze day of the year?
Yeah.
So they did that, and that took all my money, took away all my money. You know what I mean? Like I had no income. Because they closed the bars and I couldn't do anything in a closed bar. So I had to find, I've been struggling, bro. I ain't gonna lie to you. I've been struggling. I was working at Walmart. I was working construction. I've taken odd jobs out the yin yang. Then I found out as an entertainer, as an independent contractor, I was able to file for unemployment and get some of the pandemic help. So that's been helping. I just got on that. So that's been helping me. But I got shows, man. I ended up like once they started opening up the restaurants, especially here in Florida, some of the shows started coming back, and I got booked at this country club over in Palm Bay. I can't remember the damn name of it right now, but I was booked there, and it was just me. It was just they just wanted to try it out. They wanted to try comedy out. I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm gonna be there, you know. And I knew I could cover an hour. I knew I could cover out maybe an hour and change, but I brought a comic along with me to help me set up. My girlfriend was there, and the comic went up. I let him do 5 minutes just so he would, you know, I asked him to introduce me, and he went up there, he did some jokes, he got a few laughs, and he brought me up. And then of course I walked up there and I had to make fun of him. You know, Victor Theocarides.
I think pretty sure.
He's West Indian, or like he's from Trinidad, but he looks like we all make fun of him. He looks like a terrorist because he's got the beard and the, you know, we make fun. He uses it in his act too, so it's not like we're just picking at him. But I went up there, and after he got off stage, and I was like, ladies and gentlemen, give it up for my Uber driver. And they started laughing. It just went from there, man. And then I was just having fun, bro. I did my material. I was fucking with the audience, doing some crowd work and shit like that. And then I got off stage, and it was crazy because as soon as I got off stage, I looked at my watch, and I was like, "Is that right?" And I was like, "What time did I get on stage?" And it turns out I was up there for like an hour and 50-something minutes. I was 2 hours up there. And I was like, wow. And I still had material that I hadn't done, you know? So it was kind of crazy. It was crazy as hell, but it was cool as shit. It was the first time I'd ever done it. And it was probably the most fun I've had on stage to date. You know, the audience was literally like 2 hours of the same person, and nobody got up and walked out. That to me is a triumph. That's
a win.
That is a win.
So now you have a gig. You host trivia at Ashley's in Rockledge on Friday nights. I've seen you in action before, but tell us about what it's like entertaining drunk people. I mean, it's no different than doing comedy. You're entertaining drunk people, but you know, tell us about that experience, and you know what that's been like so far, and then you can give a plug for anybody local that might be watching.
All right, cool, man. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun doing that trivia, man. I've been doing the trivia night for probably about 2, maybe 3 years, almost 3 years. We took a break during COVID, obviously, but they brought me back, And so I've been doing it steady, and it's been a great gig. I mean, it really is. I mean, the people there, you get to know them. They become kind of friends and stuff like that, you know. And and yeah, drunk people are interesting. As long as you don't like go at them hard, like you're arguing with them.
Yeah,
there's a fine line of how you treat drunk people. You know what I mean? You can't drink them. You can't treat them hostile, but you can't ignore them either. You know?
Yeah.
So you got to deal with them somehow. So basically, the way I deal with it is, I just look at it like, you know, just I was like, you know, I say things like, "Oh, I remember my first beer," you know. So because I mean, let's be real. If you can't handle your liquor when you're out and about, maybe you shouldn't be drinking. You know,
exactly.
or maybe you shouldn't be out. One of the two. You know.
I mean, the lady I knew, she had me. She was like, you know, one of those crazy, you know, drunk people that likes to get all close and talk. And I was like this. I was like this.
Yeah,
yeah. I was just sitting there agreeing. You know, she finally remembered who I was too. I was like, we used to work together.
Yeah, man. But Ashley's on Friday nights, man. If anybody's in the Brevard County area, come out to Ashley's on Friday night, 7:00. We do the trivia. I treat the trivia night like it's a comedy show, and basically I do crowd work in between questions. That's the way I look at it. But I also have a comedy show coming up. If you're in Brevard County, May 8th. All right, it's coming up just around the corner. It's a Saturday night. I'm gonna be doing a show at this place called Social Distance. It's in Satellite Beach. It used to be called Sports Page. If anybody's in Brevard County, you know where that's at. Come on over. The tickets, I think they got tickets on sale. You can call there, or you can call Savvy Vinyl Records. That's my cousin's shop. They're selling tickets there too. So you can get tickets for either from Social Distance or Savvy Vinyl Records. They're all on Facebook.
Nice. And so just got a few more questions, and then we got the fun questions, and we'll be done. So what's next for Duncan Jay? You know, you know, I know you got that event coming up May 8th, but what else do you have coming up? Anything else other than that?
I got some gigs that are out of town and stuff like that. I got a few. I got something in Lakeland in June. I got something coming up down in Port St. Lucie in July, and stuff like that. But for the most part, I'm actually thinking about, you know, starting my own podcast, something similar to this. Possibly doing some sketches and stuff like that, trying to get some creative juices flowing and put something out to the world, you know, that I'm proud of.
Yeah, YouTube's where it's at, bro. Like, real talk. Like, my YouTube channel has been growing like crazy. I'm trying to get to like 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, or over 1,000 by the end of the year. So
that's what's up. That's a good goal.
I'm close to 400 now, so we're getting there.
So you can do it. It's only April. It's only May.
Yep, exactly.
By the end, you can get by the end of the year, you should be there. Yeah,
definitely. There I go again. All right. So, how can people get in contact with you on social media?
Anywhere on social media. I got Instagram. I got the YouTube. I got Facebook. I think I have the Snapchat too. I don't know. Everything though is at the Duncan Jay. TheDuncanJay at the Duncan Jay, and or you could just Google Duncan Jay. Name's right there at the bottom. DUNCANJAY. Just Google me. You find me everywhere.
Nice. All right, now we're at the part of the show where we got the fun questions that you know. I don't know what's going to come out of your mouth. I try to get some interesting questions, so we'll get started here, and then we'll be done. So, what sport would be the funniest to add a mandatory amount of alcohol to?
That's an interesting question. Okay, I'm gonna go with a spelling bee. Could you imagine having to take a shot after every word and then try to spell words? You know what I'm saying? Like, you ever see people, they can barely talk and then try to do a spelling bee on top of it? But you'd have to have a certain amount of alcohol in between each, like, so everybody's on the same level. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think that would be fun to watch.
Yeah, that would definitely be interesting, and that definitely doesn't count. That's not just saying it.
Okay.
All right. Would you rather have no nose or no arms?
Shit, that's a good question. I'm gonna go with no nose. I could always wear a mask. I mean, no arms. I wouldn't be able to grab things. I couldn't touch myself. That'd be weird. But I wouldn't have. If I had no nose, I wouldn't have to smell farts and shit. So that'd be good.
All right. And if you were a fly on the wall, who would you want to listen in on?
Oh. Well, since he doesn't have Twitter anymore, probably Trump.
That's a good answer there. So what would be your weapon of choice in a zombie apocalypse?
I'm gonna go with a sawed-off shotgun / battle axe. That way I can shoot them and stun them and then chop their heads up. Is that a good answer? I don't know.
That's an amazing answer.
Definitely.
Definitely. So do you have any crazy roommate stories?
Do I have any crazy roommate stories? Not really. Most of the roommates I've had have been pretty chill. In fact, if anything, they have crazy roommate stories about me. Usually, if you don't have crazy roommate stories, you're the crazy roommate. So I'm gonna probably own my shit and be like, yeah, no, I'm that's me.
All right. Who is your celebrity lookalike?
Well, I've been told, depending on how I wear my hair and my facial hair, some people say I look like Russell Crowe. Other people said I look like one of the Baldwin brothers. I mean, I do a joke where I got my headphones on, I can't take the hat off, but yeah, no, people like I've been told that I look like one of the Baldwin brothers, and in fact, I accidentally bumped into Alec Baldwin at a party one time in New York, and I told him that everybody told me I looked like him or one of his brothers, and without missing a beat, this is why I always love Alec Baldwin. Without missing a beat, he took a step back and looked at me. He's like, "One of my cousins, maybe. You're too short to be one of my brothers." It was great.
And when you were fat, they said you look like who?
I look like Chaz Bono. You're such a dick. You are such a dick.
That's what we do here. So what do you pretend to hate but actually love?
Justin Bieber? I don't know. I mean, honestly, you know, people talk shit about him, but he's a talented kid. He was misguided in his youth, and you know, who wasn't? You know what I mean? Like, I'm glad there wasn't cameras around when I was a kid. I would be hated by somebody, you know, by a lot of people. Absolutely. But he's a talented dude. But honestly, if you want to, I'll tell you this. I'll let you in on a little secret. One of my guilty pleasures, one of the things that, you know, you're not supposed to really like as a straight man. I like chick flicks. It's true. I can't tell you how many times I've actually watched 10 Things I Hate About You, or How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. That one especially. Yeah. No, it's just some of those movies I'll be flipping through. You know, like when you have all those channels flipping through, and you just there's a movie on, you're like, oh shit, you know, you stop and watch it. That it's like 10 Things I Hate, or How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, and Shawshank Redemption. Those are the two movies I've seen the most in my life, probably.
Nice. And so what commercial jingle gets stuck in your head, or jingle gets stuck in your head all the time?
I can't pick just one. I mean, things happen all the time, and I've seen a lot of TV, so I don't know. But I don't know. But every time I get out of the shower and look in the mirror, all I can think is popping fresh dough. You know, hee hee. Pillsbury. I look like the Pillsbury. Woohoo!
Yeah, people do that to me. They'll come up to me sometimes and they'll poke my stomach, and they want me to say woohoo. All right, the last one here. So, what is your real favorite movie, and what movie do you pretend is your favorite to sound cultured?
Oh, I don't know about that. I don't usually pretend when it comes to movies. I can't. If I like it, I like it. If I don't, I'll let you know. I was in this movie called Bocas that I can't stand, and I have to pretend to like it because I was in it. But I've watched it, and it's god awful, and I've never said that out loud except to my girlfriend. So this is on the internet now, and I don't know who's gonna hear it, but don't see the movie Bocas, Bocas. If you do, I'm letting you know they did a screening of it at a movie theater right around the corner from my apartment here, and when they did, me and my girlfriend went to it because we were like, okay, this should be good. And I hadn't read the whole script. I had only read the parts that they gave me, and most of the lines that I did was me rewriting the script. I basically just ad-libbed and just did some improv. And I will tell you this: in the entire screening, the lines that I said, the lines that came from my brain that I said that got on tape, my lines got the biggest laughs in the whole audience, in the whole movie. And they laughed for the right reasons, because there was a lot of times where people were laughing and they weren't sure if they were supposed to be or not. It's that bad of a movie.
Nice. Okay, 1 second. This normally never happens, but I got a pee, so I'm gonna step right outside the garage real quick, pee real quick, and then we'll be at the end. So this type of shit on a live
you're
show.
Talking too much. Go. You're talking too much. Bye. Go. I'll entertain your audience. What's up, everybody? How you doing? Mike's going to take a piss. If you're just joining us, this is this will be a story for another podcast. When somebody asks me about the weirdest podcast experience I've ever had, like, well, the host just had to piss in the middle of the interview. Had to go, and then he told everybody he's going outside to the garage and he's just gonna piss outside. I guess I don't know what he's doing, but yeah. Uh-oh, my phone's about to die. Okay. I hope Mike hurries back soon because my phone's gonna die. There he is.
All right. I am back. All right.
Don't worry, I kept him entertained. I was trying to explain to him how this right here, what's happening, is going to be a story for another podcast. When they tell me they asked me what the weirdest podcast experience I ever had. I'm like, well, the host just picked up and had to piss during the middle of the interview. Just
at the end, was towards the end, because I'm about to end
I know, but when I tell it, it's going to be the middle. Shut up. It's funny.
Definitely.
Definitely.
So yeah, man, this has been a fun time, man. I appreciate you for coming on, man.
Hey, man, thanks for the cigar. This is pretty good, man. It's been smoking well. It burns good. Yeah, it's not falling apart. So kudos to your sponsors, man. Kudos to your sponsors.
Yes, the Cigar Hustlers podcast. I think in the beginning there was some skipping, so I do want to give another shout out to my boys Mike and Mike at a Cigar Hustlers podcast. Their show comes on. It's not live, so they post it Tuesdays at 10 a.m. So make sure you go subscribe to them on YouTube, everybody. And everybody that tuned in tonight and everybody that's tuning in after, I want to thank you so much for tuning in. And I will see you guys next week. And I got some more videos. Make sure you check out teamshirtlessmike.com. You can watch the show live from there now. Because I have every show I'll put the feed so that you can just go on my website and watch it on YouTube from my website to give my website some hits. So, and make sure you buy some merch, join Patreon and all that good stuff.
And hit me up on social media too. I'd love to see you guys all out on May 8th.
Definitely. All right. Well, Duncan, I appreciate your time today. I'll let you know when we're not live and we can talk some real shit.
All right. Thanks, brother. Good talking to you, man. Thanks for the cigar. Thanks for the opportunity to be here, man. I appreciate you.
Yes, sir. All right. I'll let you know when we're